This one should be 8 people. So then Alex said, "Are you crazy, Paulo? Let's split." And I found it a good idea. So now we are going to discuss the Foodtech reset: capital, partnership, and profitable scale. Vou chamar aqui o Alex Bastos, Jonathan Berger, Damalek, and myself. Where is Dan? Where is Dan? Yeah. Alô, alô. We start. No? Good. Let's start. He'll join us. Start. The idea here is I speak English because can you speak Portuguese, John? Então, bom, o Jonathan já ficou bom em português aí nesses anos, devagar. A ideia é ver o que aconteceu com as startups Foodtech, por quê e como, e o que esse reset, como recomeçar, como encaixar, porque não morreu, como encaixar o capital, o interesse das empresas nesse novo momento das Foodtechs. Eu acho que esse é o ponto desse bate-papo aqui. Jonathan.
Para mim é muito importante falar português porque eu gosto da língua muito, mas para fazer um plano português vai ficar um pouco difícil. Então, somente começar para dizer a toda gente que estou muito feliz de ficar aqui e sair do Israel, que está nesta época é um difícil lugar, e chegar ao Brasil, país que está maravilhoso para mim. E ontem, quando começamos, we were singing the Phantom, I was super excited. So to start, a word of background about the kitchen and the challenges that we are facing, and you know the kitchen very well. Givaudan and the Kitchen Hub has collaboration agreement, and we are working closely together to bring startups from Israel to Givaudan according to their interest area. So to start with a quick background about the kitchen, we founded it in January 2015. I was running it as a CEO until the end of March 2026. And during that period, we screened around 400 opportunities, or 350 opportunities every year, including research from universities, startups, even technologies out of Israel. And we invested in about 29 companies. And what we did is not only that we invested in the companies, but we also built successful businesses. So we were trying to put them in front of partners like Givaudan, like Nestle, like big food companies. We put them in front of investors, and we helped them grow. So we are very happy that out of the 29 companies, we have few companies that are selling all over the world, that they signed contract with big manufacturers and raised a lot of money. So I think that is the background to your question.
Alex.
So I'll make it conversational. So
in English.
Yeah, we speak in English.
Yeah,
right?
that's the English.
Okay, good. So then Jonathan can weigh in and make comments. I mean, it's when we think about like a very healthy ecosystem, right? I always had this kind of ingredients. One is talent, right? So you need talent, and you need talent with the right mindset, right? So you need people that are, adventurous, entrepreneurial, and all of that. I think the other element that we need, definitely money, and we need capital. And this is what kind of, pushed like the whole food tech, into the stage where it was, especially in 2021. And I still remember the, early days at Givaudan when we started to look into this, and I got this message from my president back in the days, and he said, Alex, follow the money. And we actually look into the whole world, and we saw where money was deployed. Because you have talent, you have people that are very naive, they are very creative, they have crazy ideas. I still remember 10 years ago, people talking about, cell-based meat and plant-based hamburgers, and we were like, this is not going anywhere. And these ideas, they continue to emerge, but you need capital, right? And then the third part, you need enablers, operators that can help. Well, I would put a fourth one, which is you have to have the right place. And I think that's kind of what the Bay Area, has as well, with, California and all of that. People want to be there. I think the same with Tel Aviv, for the people that were in Tel Aviv, it's a fantastic location, nice culture and everything. What happened was that ingredient called capital, crash. And the problem was there was no one else to pick it up, right? The corporates would never do it. It's too risky, many times too adjacent, too early. You need to see this kind of get into a level where you are actually able to help. I even remember at very early days, talking to biotech companies, and they were like, oh, Alex, we just have 150 milligrams. I said, send it over, right? We can at least smell it, look at it, and, see if it's kind of going the right direction. But getting that company to go to the next level, you need the investors at the end. And this is where VC played a major role. In Israel, given the lack of, investors, then the government was picking up, and it was an amazing program. Netherlands, they also have that, but somehow this money, is not there anymore. Cash is very expensive. So to me, how can we solve this? Because the investors now, and what we hear, kind of how this can, continue working on is PowerPoint presentations won't make it, right? So people will not just be sold into a very nice, cool, disruptive idea. You have to prove the case. You have to show the pathway when this is going to be profitable. You actually have to show the ecosystem around you that, can help you to scale. What are the companies? What are the operators that can get you to the next level? And then these guys that are very selective, they could deploy the money. So we are looking for this, and I don't know, Jonathan, if you would agree, and Paulo as well. But for me, that element of, the seed money, the Series A, Series B, it's so much more difficult. The money is still there somewhere, but now there is a bit of kind of a natural selection, like what happened to the world, right? Only the good fighters survived. I see the same now with the, the new and emerging companies.
Okay. Let me make my 5 minutes, John, pass to you. I say, I participate strongly in the internet bubble in 2000. And at that time, I was building the first logistic company with e-commerce for the largest company logistic in Brazil, Grupo Martins. The company called Intecom. Myself, I received so many PPTs worth $50 million. And then, again, I learned from the past. So when I jump into this word, food tech, and I said that in Lausanne, in the panel I participate with you, that I didn't measure too much with the food techs in Brazil because I thought they could bring new technologies. No, just bubble. So, because of my story in the food industry, I started with the companies, but I was not keen on to hurry up with the food techs. If they come to me, thank you very much, but I was not looking for them because I never believed too much. You need to know the cycle in the food industry. You need to know the food industry. When you see AgTech, Francisco, AgTech is in the palm of your hand. Everything is fine, connected. Food industry, process, deliver, market, long chain. So, and then to finalize, I have an M&A company for 20 years. I know how to do valuations. And again, we fail because the VC put a lot of money with companies that value not very much. And now, when you crash like this, it's difficult to recover the trust. That is my point to start the discussion here.
Yeah. So I have one question to ask you, but before that, to know the audience, and I don't see you. Any corporates in the audience, please raise your hand. Corporates, companies, big corporates. Thank you. And startups, innovators, technology people, startups. Thank you. What I want to ask you, Paulo, is the challenges that, from your experience in Tropical, the local ecosystem is facing when they approach big companies and try to integrate their technologies. What are the main challenges?
For the corporates?
For the young startups, what are the challenges that the startups are facing?
The challenge is to prove value for corporates. Let's say, why should I spend my time? Let's go back one step. Corporates are putting less and less resource in innovation. That is a big opportunity for ecosystem. But they don't have the resource people to scout startup, to follow up, to wait too long to incorporate the technology inside. And also the big companies, they have this central innovation worldwide. If you take locally, you cannot succeed to do it. No. That is...
Yeah. So my advice, based on what we saw, and it was discussed before, is the most important thing is to connect with an individual in the corporate that has a relationship with you, and you build the trust, and he would be like internal sources. For example, and you know that better than I, startup can talk for a year with the wrong person in the organization. So if you have the right person and he tells you honestly what to do and how to help him or her be successful in front of his bosses. So I found that technology is just one piece, but human interaction, and you're going to be a psychologist, so you listen to this, is one of the most important things, because at the end of the day, it's all about trust, and when you have trust, then the other party will help you. And I learned that when we had someone in the organization that told us, this boss like to see this type of things, and this boss is afraid of this type of thing, suddenly the presentation of the startups became way more effective because they were sensitive to the politics of the organization. On the other side, I saw startups in Israel that we are so fond of technology. They were thinking that the fact that technology is good is enough. And they crashed. So this is like my one learning experience that I can. We spent a lot of money on this learning experience.
Good point. Alex?
Yeah, no, I would agree, right? Like at the end, we always hear, what do we say, like if you have, an average technology and a good team, you can actually, deploy impact. But if you have like a great technology and a bad team, it's not going to go anywhere. And this is again like the cycle, right? Because making that connection and creating that traction, again, with the industry, because we are not talking about software innovation,
yes.
Right? I mean, that you can scale very easily. We see like things are moving so fast. When you think about food industry, and the investors know that, they have to work with, the operators, because it takes many years to introduce like new technology, to the industry. And I think, if the team makes that connection, builds on the technology, find the right person, and that goes back, then the money again is deployed, and then things can evolve. And I think this is today what is being seen more and more. Because again, these guys that enable that first push so that the corporates can pick up, they are asking about exactly that. Is there anyone believing in your technology? What's the traction? What LOI you have? Do you have any JDA? Do you have any type of agreement? Is there any POC? And this is more important than ever. And that's my, my advice to the companies today. The other thing that changed, it's not only like to create that whole initial, movement and dynamics, but it's also like the ambition. I mean, before, like everybody wanted to do like, okay, no, I'm going to do an IPO, right? And again, in the food industry, it's really hard. It's really hard, right? I mean,
almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the case of Beyond Meat and, maybe another one. But it's really hard. And more, which I love, especially like with my Givaudan hat, that people are pushing like, guys, you are a technology company. Think about your business model so that you do your technology and you bring it to the world through partnerships. Otherwise, it will never get it.
Yeah.
I mean, we see amazing companies still there, like into that kind of trying to get into, the industry, like, every, great technology, biotech, albumin, and all this. We see the products. I mean, they taste amazing. But, getting the cost right, they won't be able to do it alone, right? So I think that second part, how can you, after you create the traction, you get to a certain level, what's your ambition and what's the right ambition, right? To get the technology to the
Alex,
industry.
Jonathan, we follow up today the Cultivate Meat Challenge. When Gary was here, I said to him, what about the equipment, the process? When he was here in my event, I'm challenging the same with biotech that we discussed the 2 days here. They will run the same problem, because when we go to scale, is a big problem, the money has to be high, and more than that, regulation will be tougher, because novel foods with microorganisms will be tough to approve. So a lot of challenge, and the entrepreneurs have to measure that. Sometimes they go into a business without having this broad vision.
Yeah, I must jump in. And again, it's all based on mistakes that we have done in the past. So everything I'm sharing with the audience is we have scars, I have scars on my back. Expectation management. expectation management. Like every good project in life starts with setting up the expectation. What would be its success for the corporate? What would be the success for the startup? What are the challenges that we are going to face? How are we going to handle them? So before we jump and sending samples and doing a lot of heavy lifting and flying and coming back and forth, let's communicate what would be success. And I learned so many times that the startup thinks that he's going to go that way, and the corporate is thinking that it's going to go that way, and there is a lot of time misalignment of a success. And we forced at the kitchen, we forced the startup to start with planning a pilot, because pilot is not a long-term thing. But even for the pilot, which is a short-term thing, to decide what would be success, brings up a lot of challenges. And I think that what you talked about, fermentation and the cost, et cetera, is a perfect example. Because if you don't see the future and startups say, oh, okay, so then we raise money and we build a factory, this is not going to happen. So you have to communicate your plans as far as how are you going to scale up, what will be the co-manufacturing or the partnership that you're going to create. So I think after talking about trust, second advice would be alignment of interest from the day one.
No, I think and it's actually, I mean, so many research has been done on that, initial step on finding like strategic fitness, right? Like if you are not aligned, for sure it's gonna, break down at the end. And again, as you, Jonathan, I have suffered this so much, right? Because we thought we were, on the same page, and then all of the sudden, we were completely wrong. Even like internally in the organization, I challenge like the internal teams to really be transparent on what they expect. I give like a very, real, case that we had, a few months ago. So we are working with this startup. They are pretty much doing, solid state fermentation for taste. And, I mean, it's a foodstuff fermentation, right? Normally their product, when they go into food application, it would go into, like kind of at least for the Givaudan word, a higher inclusion rate. And they were working with us and talking to us, thinking about large volumes. But we were thinking not as like an ingredient in a final base. We were thinking about maybe an ingredient as part of like a flavor formulation. And the volumes would be completely different. They were dreaming about thousands of tons. We were thinking about, okay, we add in a ppm level in a final product. And we kept going, not kidding.
And they're extremely profitable at the thousands of tons, right?
Yeah. and at some point after months, we realized we were talking different language, and everybody goes like, that's what you meant. Yes. And, I mean, luckily enough, it took some time, but, I think we said, okay, we are not the right partner for you. And they said the same, even though the technology was beautiful, but for them was important to scale up in volume. So we would maybe, pick them up later. So I think that alignment is super important. So, yeah, we're talking about, where's the initial money, where's kind of the right connections, finding the right doors, how we can create traction, what are the ambitions. I think these are some of the ingredients, going forward, to have more success, between corporates and innovators.
Yeah, I think I want to put the governance at the Tropical starting in August, a program for startup, because as we take financially, we should be proved before I work very much to get the members. So now we are in this stage to to put some startup. We have 8 places to choose 8 startup to support and so on. But I want to be very, very strict to that. Very, very. You see, it has to have the market demand for that. It's not everyone that will maybe otherwise is waste of effort for them and for us, right? So let's see if we are with the learns of you to build up something different with different eyes and approach.
Yeah, and I think for this, what you call product market fit,
yes,
to get the product market fit
yep.
as quickly as possible, what we learned that working with corporate is the fail fast achievement.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes corporates are very nice to the startup. They don't want to disappoint them. And I was telling all the companies in my kitchen, in the portfolio companies, talk with the corporates about failing fast. We want to try something real quick, and if we know that it doesn't work, let's don't waste anybody's time on that.
That's good.
Because the most important thing for the startup is the time.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason, either the regulation is not suitable or the whatever, we want to know it, both sides want to know it as quickly as possible. So when you talk about product market fit, get something to the market, to the corporate, as
yes.
quickly as you can.
Yes.
Don't try to be perfect because it's going to go through many improvements in the... But if it's not going to work, if it is completely off chart, you want to know it quickly, go back home, fix it, do a different product, solve another problem. Everything is fine. But try to make sure
yes.
that you have the product market fit.
I agree.
Maybe one final thought from my side, on top of what we discussed already. I think, it is still like a topic for the companies going forward as they try to, create attraction, attract the money, find the right people, have the right ambition, create alignment. I think we, from the corporate side, we do expect, startups to do their homework. I think this is really important, sometimes you get companies that they do exactly the same presentation, exactly the same pitch, and they have no clue, to whom they are talking to. And I think more than ever, not only for the corporates, but also like the investors you are talking to, I think it's really important to tune your message. Now with all the support of artificial intelligence, doing like a landscape of corporates, doing like a landscape of investors, what they are, going through, what's their portfolio, trying to understand what makes them tick. I think, the companies, the innovators, they should really do that, so that, they have higher chances to succeed. We believe, and I still believe, there is a huge space for innovators, for entrepreneurs, and I really hope that this comes back more strongly, and that's why we keep investing on, in the ecosystem. Everybody has a role, but then, going forward, I think these points of attention, super important, and I just add like this as a final comment. Do your homework before you start connecting with any potential partner.
My final comment is this, because I came from industry, I was CEO of a big company. I know the money is money, right? I learned with the name. When I built Foodtech Hub Latam, I was not begging anyone to help me because it was my risk with my money, my family money, to take the risk. Sometimes I feel that we should help anyway you because you are a startup, because they didn't do their homework, as you say. So this mindset, I think we have to move to a more professional, risky. Startup is a risky thing. You can lose, you can win. And then this kind of mindset, I sometimes I miss.
My final comment is that this is very long journey. Very, very long journey. And if you start a startup and you're not ready, and even Foodtech Hub Latam, because you're experienced, you knew that at the beginning it will not be successful. You knew that it will take several years until you get to what we see here. But you were experienced to know that this is a long journey. And if you start this, don't expect for quick win. Don't expect for a sprint. Be ready for a marathon. Be ready for emotional roller coaster. Have your family be ready to support you in very, very, very dark days. And if you do those mental preparation, you would succeed.
Thank you. Paulo.